Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to West 2023 in the Information Warfare Pavilion. It is now 0930, and being the information warfare community, we are responsible, one of the things we're responsible for is precision timing. And so we start all of these on time, and I owe that to the oceanographer of the Navy in the back, Admiral Perrette. So welcome once again to West. And I think this is about our 7th or 8th year as the Information Warfare Pavilion and the speaker series here today. We have a lot of great speakers lined up over the next 3 days. Complete listing is available on the app and, of course, over at our desk over there in the pavilion itself. We're very delighted today to start our speaking series with a local. Vice Admiral Trussler had been scheduled to come out here for this, but something came up at the last minute and he had to cancel his trip. But we are delighted that we have, to kick off the pavilion speaker series today, Ms. Tammy North. Tammy is our Information Warfare Readiness Director. And as such, she's responsible for IW readiness across the Navy, both afloat and ashore. She's got over 30 years of naval service from the enlisted side, the cryptologic warfare officer side, and as a civilian and a senior civilian. She's also a defense acquisition specialist. So she's got all the key ingredients that we need to help us move the information warfare program in the right direction. Tammy, with that, I'll just turn it over to you and let you use the time.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Information Warfare Pavilion. I'm very excited to see so many of you and excited to engage with you over the next few days. So as Joe said, I am Tammy North. I'm the Director of Information Warfare Readiness at Naval Information Forces, and I'm responsible to the IBOS, Vice Admiral Ashback, for all ashore and afloat readiness across the Navy for information warfare. First, I want to thank AFCEA and USNI for putting on such an extraordinary event year after year. And also, just thanks to all of you for coming, because that's what it's about, bringing the industry and the military and the government civilians all together so we can have some really important dialogue about where we need to go next. So let's talk about what's happened over the past year. About a year ago, I was on this exact same stage, basically the same time, and I was talking to you about information warfare readiness afloat, really supporting the information warfare commanders and their teams. But due to some of the success we had in partnering with SURF4 and Air4 and also with the SysComs, Vice Admiral Ashback made some decisions to do some realignment within NAV-I4, and she moved the N3 underneath me as well, and created an Information Warfare Readiness Directorate. Now, this Information Warfare Readiness Directorate does have 2 pillars, an afloat pillar and an ashore pillar. And the Captain Cole there is the numeric N3 for NAV-I4. However, in this role, he's also my Deputy Information Warfare Director. So I'll get into what that means, but a couple of things I just want to talk about before we get to that is just thinking about, I have spent about over 30 years working in information warfare in one capacity or another. And one of the things that I've realized is that at this moment, I think we are on the cascading side of a tipping point. Something that we've been wanting for years, something we've been wishing for decades. And that is that we've been wanting, and I've been hearing it from all of you, from the fleet and everybody, that we want capability delivered more quickly. And that moment is upon us. So, of course, industry, or the commercial side of the industry, has been doing this for years. Netflix, Amazon, and others. There's rapid delivery of capability in numerous ways across the world. But at this time, it is finally proliferated where there is multiple DevSecOps environments on multiple enclaves that are now going to be actively delivering quick capability to our ships afloat and also to our critical shore commands. And so we are here, and all of that change is all that consistent change is now causing us to have to evolve in the way that we think about certifications, training, equipping, making us have to evolve in the way we think about our officers and our sailors and how they're interacting with the equipment. And it is this exact equipment the sailors and the officers are going to have to use to bring that lethality that when they are called upon, it is this equipment that they're going to have to use. And so it's going to take all of us to make that happen. So the fact that we are now here where capability will be delivered more and more from now into the future, I've been having the most interesting conversations. So, for instance, I'm out around the waterfront. I'm out all the time around San Diego and Norfolk, and I hear things like, wait, if they deliver that capability at sea, how are we going to train our sailors? Or if they deliver that capability so quickly, we aren't going to have time to train it in the OFRP. How are we going to be ready for Com2X? Or they'll say, we don't have governance for that. Who's going to make the decision to install that piece of equipment? How are we going to know it's cyber secure? Can ITs even manage Kubernetes? Or, these are the questions I hear. So what that sounds like is after 30 years of wishing capability could be delivered quickly, it now sounds like some people want to slow it down. But I don't think that's really the case. So don't get me wrong. I don't think that anybody actually wants to slow it down. But there is something behind the concern. All those questions, what that is saying somewhere behind the scenes is they're really concerned about readiness. Everybody's focused on being able to deliver ready systems, ready sailors, and so that they are ready to deter, compete, and win, both today and in future conflicts. And this rapid change is driving the need to evolve the way we think about this lethality. So the DevSecOps environments will be driving this capability both ashore and afloat, as I mentioned. But then also, with this rapid capability delivery, there also has been a simultaneous increase in the demand for IW. And so you have these two competing things, fast capability delivery, and we need more and more IW. We're talking about subsurface, surface, air, spec war, you name it. Everybody wants more IW. So with that, the reason is simple, that there is no lethality unless you have information warfare. It's the awareness of the battle space, it's the assured command and control, and it's the ability to deliver coordinated fires on target that will drive the decisive outcomes we desire. So given this rapid capability delivery and the exponential demand for IW, and the fact that IW is already IW readiness is a challenge today, then the question I have for you is, how do we scale information warfare readiness? How do we go from the current baseline of readiness where we are today, where the SysComs, the training commands, the TICOMs are all doing their part to maintain the readiness we currently have? So how do we take it to the next level? How do we take it to a place that enables rapid delivery, supports sailor self-sufficiency, and frees up the minds and time of our brilliant information warfare leaders across the Navy, ashore, and afloat? Well, we have to find a way to scale that IW readiness, and we need to attack this challenge, in my opinion, in a completely different way. I think that there will be a time in the future, probably 1 year from now, by next AFCEA, where there will be thousands of sailors who have already been dealing with these DevSecOps environments. There will be thousands of sailors who already think that this rapid capability delivery is normal. So that's where our challenge lies, is going from the legacy way of supporting readiness to where we need to go in the future. And it will take all of us, including industry. So from my position as the Information Warfare Readiness Director and leading IWRD, I'm going to focus my team on three different key points in order to get to this readiness. One is defining information warfare readiness. What does that mean? And you might think that's something that we already know. Man, train, and equip certification. That's basically the readiness, but as all of us know, information warfare is expansive. It is broad. So there's a few projects that my team is taking on. One is an information warfare equipment list. And this sounds simple, but it's not. What we're trying to do is capture a list of everything that is information warfare, and then we're going to align it to the information warfare commander ConOps. There's missions underneath all of the three pillars. So taking that list of equipment and aligning it to missions in order to create an ultimate dashboard, and also just to help information warfare commanders, as we talked about last year, even understand what are they responsible for. Because as we discussed, information warfare touches everything. So you have to bound it at some point so that an individual commander can actually understand what they're responsible for and then communicate to their leadership or to others what they're responsible for. So that's a primary purpose of the reason we're creating this, is to assist our information warfare commanders. But then also to communicate up and down the chains of command and across with other TICOMs, things like the difference between a combat system or an information warfare system, for instance, or et cetera. There's some, and then we think that we'll be able to take that. We'll be able to take this list along with the dashboard and theoretically create red lines in some capacity. If you think of a ship having having a Cat 4 CAS rep on, let's say, a main engine, then they won't get underway. However, nobody ever stops a ship from getting underway when it's an information warfare equipment. But given where we're going in the high-end warfight we may enter, then it would at least be wise to give commanders decision space and to help them understand where the risk lies on an individual unit. And so that's some of the things that this list could be used for, and the corresponding dashboard. Some other projects we're working on are a C5I fast cruise effort in order to increase accountability. We're going to work heavily with SUR4 and Air4 on this, but to increase accountability and also participation. There's a number of efforts that happen on individual strike groups and ARGs that if the sailors and the officers were more familiar with our equipment, were more prepared to engage, were more had a deeper understanding of the integration points, for example, that they could solve a lot of the problems on their own. And so that's what we'd like. I believe that an increased C5I fast cruise participation will not only help the readiness of an individual ship, but it will also help increase the capacity and understanding of the sailors afloat. So then, talking about how to define ashore readiness, NAVWAR, we have some great partners with NAVWAR, and specifically 4.8. They have stood up a shore program office, and they also have a plan in a POAM to deliver a shore planning yard and a shore planning activity. And so there's already a lot of maturity in the afloat readiness constructs between the GIFM and the NMP MOM. There are already very mature processes to modernize, understand configuration management, and also to improve, to do maintenance and other things for afloat. So that's one of the beauties of marrying the afloat and the ashore underneath one hat at NAVI4. It gives us a lot of opportunity working with our own N4 and also the platform, and also the NAVWAR 4.8 and others, and PMW 790, that we will be able to build that similar kind of construct for the critical shore commands, such as the NICTAMs and the NCTSs. And similarly, now NAVI4 has also been named the TICOM for the Maritime Operations Centers. And there's a lot of that, we're in the nascent stages of that, and there's a phased plan in order to implement. But there's a lot of work to be done in configuration management for maritime operations centers for the MOCs, and also just understanding their individual requirements and to the degree possible to align those where they can be. So there's a lot of work to come that we'll be working with the numbered fleets and the fleet commanders and others going forward on that. So then my second point, in order to get after this information warfare readiness, once it's been defined, would be to measure IW readiness. So how do we measure it? I already talked a little bit about our IWC dashboard that we've been developing, but and our NavI4 CIO and Eric Markland, who's here today, and some other POC4I have been great partners in this. But also, we like to do the same thing with in a different way, but define a shore readiness, develop a shore readiness reporting mechanism as well, to specifically cover both the C3 shore commands, the NICTAMs and the NCTSs, the fleet units, also the MOCs, and then also our other ADCON shore commands that NavI4 is directly responsible for. So that's an effort that my team will be taking on, is the shore readiness. We'll be doing a lot of this through the DERS process, but there's a whole enterprise of databases that feed DERS, and so there's a lot of opportunity there between all the organizations and maybe even industry in order to engage and with some of that there's a lot of just data collection and processing that is going to go into building that. But I think we have a good way forward, but that's one of the main efforts we'll be working on. And then finally, my third thing I'm going to have my team working on is developing a really strong coalition with all the SysComs and the other TICOMs, and in order to get after IW readiness and impact it in a positive way. Because it doesn't matter if we know what the readiness looks like and then we've also measured it, but we also then have to decide that we're going to do something about it. And so that is my third thing, and that's my most important part, is what can we do to actually get from where we are today to where we need to be. So that's going to take, that is where we really need everybody. And so there's some tighter integration. I know that we're already working with SURF4, which I do think SURF4 is one of our great partners. And so we're going to continue to work with them, improving the Battle E, specifically the Green E, some of the requirements for that, in order to incentivize information warfare readiness to all warfare areas. As I mentioned already, information warfare is required for every single warfare area. And therefore, we really need the COs and the XOs and the department heads to care as much about information warfare as the COMO and the CESDIVO, for example. And then also just working with the afloat maintenance world, and as I already mentioned, just improving, understanding exactly where the shore readiness is, and then maturing the processes to make it a lot more ship-based. Because right now, sometimes, and I can tell you this from my experiences being at PMW 120 when I was at APM for a system that was both ashore and afloat, that when we would go install these systems and the shore sides, let's say NAUTEC or some others, that a lot of those shore systems, a lot of the shore sites had different levels of configuration management. We'll just say that. So it was very personality based, depending on how great their technical expertise was at each site. And they would hire civilians, or maybe they had, so it was, what we'd like to do is make it very standardized and make it as easy as possible for people who come and plug into the command, maybe a new technical director or new ITs or new maintainers of any kind, that they could come in and understand what's going on, even if they hadn't been the person that's been there for the last 20 years. So getting to a place where there's the understanding and the mature processes. And then one of the key things we really need to do, and I'm not going to spend a lot of energy on this one because I know we have some great speakers coming up at this pavilion, but one of the paradigm shifts is with all this DevSecOps is going to also be the paradigm shift in how we train our sailors. And so I know we have great people coming, but that is absolutely essential. So I just want to take a moment to stomp the floor on that one, that we have to change the way we train. And so LVC, which is one Admiral Ashback's #1 priorities, it is just essential that we come up with, I know it's already happening. If you hand a 3-year-old a iPad, they can work it. So we shouldn't have to spend months and months and months and months training people in the old old-fashioned way. There's got to be another way. And so maybe it's a combination, and I know people are working on that in many different capacities, but there is always opportunity to improve there. And then finally, it just has a TICOM, and in concert with the other TICOMs, just learning to, once we measure this data and we have the machine learning and maybe even artificial intelligence with at our fingertips in the future, just working with the other TICOMs more and the SysComs in order to understand the data. There is so much data available, but being able to harness it and understand it in order to actually understand how we can best use our resources, how we can for readiness, and how we can better inform POM issues, or even become predictive. And that's my goal, is that we could get to a place like that. So what I'm talking about here, it really isn't new, but the pieces are coming into place, and I see it happening, and I'm very excited. So I just hope that you all are excited too, and that people don't fear the technology. Let's find a way to embrace it, and let's find a way to make it work. Because now that I've seen all of us doing all of this work, and I've seen the awesome officers and the sailors, people like Jim Blankenship and what she's doing with the ITs, and her scriptathons that she's been doing with the ITs, and there's so many other things like that happening out here, that with these grassroots efforts coming from the sailors and the JOs up, and then if the TICOMs and the SysComs do our part, this current generation of information warriors will take our Navy to successes that we never thought were possible. So with that, I would like to open it up to any questions that you may have.
Questions?
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for that. That was an excellent presentation. You mentioned configuration management and modernization is very important. So have you thought about how you're going to handle DISASTIG with some of the compliance enforcements that are needed with that configuration management and hardening of the systems? And if you have, could you elaborate a little?
You said you're talking about, you said the STIGs, is that what you said?
The STIGs, yeah.
That's what I thought you said, okay. Well, with the DevSecOps environments, because that's one of the main things that I'm in my conversation here, is the rapid delivery, that the security is supposed to be baked in. But it's one of those things that after the fact, it's still we still have to have the compliance on the other side, and working with SURF4 and our CIO, Eric Markland, and SURF4 and Airfort, and for the ship's side, that will continue to evolve, but it is definitely being looked at of how that's going to happen. And I actually think that in the long run, these environments will help the cybersecurity, but we have to get from where we are now, where it is a huge challenge, and then to get to there. And how often when you're modernizing a ship, they're rolling out all the some ships won't be modernized for 5 years with a new, and so that it's going to continue to be a challenge. But we'll work with, with our teams will work together and with the SysComs in order to work on that further. And if you like, I can talk to you more about that afterwards. Okay, thanks. Okay, any other questions?
Ma'am, Commander Chad Harvey, I'm the 3rd Fleet Space Officer.
Yes, hi.
I appreciate the conversation about TICOM assignment for the MOC.
Yes.
We've been working a lot with Project Overmatch and that team. I'm wondering what the interaction between NAV-I4 and Project Overmatch looks like in terms of fulfilling MOC requirements.
Okay. Regarding Overmatch, I will tell you, I do have a lead who works directly for me. Captain Shine, and we are very involved with Rear Admiral Small and his team. So to say much more, I will have to visit you, and I'll be glad. We'll be happy to set up a conversation with you separately, and we'll be glad to do so. We would love it. Yes.
Hi,
Hi.
My name's Carrie. I'm a reporter with Bloomberg Government. Just as somebody who is less familiar with kind of the structures and how the Navy is set up in general, when we're talking about information warfare, where does the overlap or disconnect between when we're talking about C5ISR? Are they like joined together or are they separate? If we're talking about that.
If you want to talk about C5ISR and information warfare, it's a very overlapping Venn diagram. I would say that it's almost complete information warfare. There's probably, if you say C5I, there's some philosophical conversation that would happen between some people between whether it's combat systems or information warfare. That's the only part, and it's kind of just the edges. It's basically almost a complete overlap. So even we have a C5I wholeness campaign plan, and even in that wholeness campaign plan, we've added combat systems in as a part of that, and we're working with IWS 2.0 on that effort. So yes.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
No other questions?
There's one. Okay.
Hey, Tammy, great to see you. Dave McDonald,
you.
Nick Thames PAC, so we're a big stakeholder in this. You mentioned that kind of aspirationally that security, what a lot of folks refer to as zero trust, is baked in, built in, integrated in. So I guess it was 2 years ago, DoD-CIO put out kind of a guidance memo on continuous ATO,
Yes.
right? So which is tied to DevSecOps and continuous monitoring. What I think none of us has really seen yet is a governance forcing function on the acquisition and R&D communities to design to continuous ATO, and then a resourcing of continuous ATO in terms of life cycle and
Yes.
operations. So what do you think about that? And if we sort of got that piece right, then the idea of baked-in security becomes, baked in continuous ATO, and then DevSecOps becomes, a real thriving thing. What do you think about that idea?
Thanks, Dave. Good to see you. I agree with you. From my experience when I was at the program office, I saw that often, and I don't know how it is today exactly over there, but the R&D shops, we want to encourage people to bring their R&D. We want the S&T community to be strong and thriving in various ways, but there are some things, and I think especially, we have an S&T lead at NAVI4, and then that's one of the I can bring that question to her specifically, but also at the Syscoms is how do we, that at their level that they need to hold people accountable too, because before they accept the technology and decide they're going to roll it into a program, that is, they can set the standards for what they're willing to accept. And I think that anytime, that's kind of the purpose of one of these conversations right here with industry. There's a lot of small businesses probably here in the audience, and getting them to think like that in order to understand that your piece of technology is going to be actually accepted by the government, it will be easier for it to be accepted if you come ready to with your cybersecurity rolled in. And so I think that's a very valid point. And I'll bring it up to our S&T lead as well. So thank you for that.
Good morning, ma'am. Master Chief Writer from NAVI4. What do you believe to be the greatest challenge in IW readiness, considering the amount of stakeholders we have in this room, and what is your challenge to us?
The greatest IW readiness challenge of all. I actually think I have probably three answers for that. One is the integration between systems, because this is true between a shore and a float, just the integration points. Nobody really owns the integration points. And that's kind of why DG-CIT exists to a degree and I love DG-CIT, and I also have a dream where everything is so awesome that DG-CIT wouldn't have to exist anymore, because either the systems were so well integrated without help, or the sailors and the officers understood how to troubleshoot and configure their own systems. And because we are at a place, especially with the talk about JADC2 and everything else, that we are at a place where everything has to integrate well, and there's no alternative. So I think that's what I would say. And then also including between the ships and shore, that's an integration point as well. And I think that it's always challenging. So I would say integration points. Thank you. Okay, there's a question back there.
Good morning, ma'am. Anton Hernandez. I'm the commo on the Portland. I've been in the Navy for quite a while. One of the shortfalls that I have noticed is training our sailors for the systems that we have on board.
Yes.
And then the rapid progression of our systems on board, but the schoolhouse cannot keep up with that rapid transition of systems
Yes.
on board. Not only that, our systems are changing rapidly with this new technology and our sailors coming in. Do we have a plan? And I know that sometimes the shortfalls are budget and manning, but do we have a plan to push more updated training to our sailors to be coexistent with the systems that we are now installing on the ships and then for future ships as well?
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great question. And that kind of gets exactly the heart of this talk, is that everything is changing so rapidly now that the traditional schoolhouses are having a challenge keeping up. The good news is there is a lot of technology. NavI4, our N7 team, NIWITIC, SMITIC, there's a lot of really forward-leaning efforts that are ongoing for these systems, including PMW 160 and others. There's a lot of really cool things happening that allow even reconfigured systems depending on the ship you're going to. I know Canes can do that. They're TVE, but then also there's also the MERTS systems for maintenance and other things. So I think we're at the beginning of that, but there are a lot of efforts that are happening because we recognize that is a challenge. And the LVC, the Live Virtual Construct, will also help us trade. There's many things in information warfare that we can't even use to exercise. We can't even exercise. So in order to actually understand if we're proficient or if the systems even work the way they were designed, LVC will get after that as well. So I think there's a number of efforts that are happening. But if you have anything specific, a specific system in mind, feel free to talk to me after, and I can let you know what I know as well about that and connect you to some people who might have more information. Thank you. Yes.
Hey, good morning, ma'am. I'm the ISO on board, Essex Information Systems Officer. I'm going to piggyback off my counterpart and go a little deeper. Block learning. So when it comes to block learning for an operational unit, having sailors to have to go back and do 4 months of block learning, along with go to the system administrator school as an IP, and then go to Canes, that's about a 9 to 12 month window of operational time lost with our life cycle on board a ship. I saw the nav admin that came out a few months ago saying we can do OJT, have the skipper sign off, and that be the end of the prerequisite of Block 1 and System Administrator School. But I had a recent counterpart go to a conference a couple weeks ago or last week that says that's in the works of being only for like ComNav sailors. So my question to you is there any way possible, because when that nav admin / message drop, I was very happy to see that. So we route all of our OJT requests immediately to the captain.
Exactly.
Is that something that we can put permanently in place for the entire fleet instead of just the nav air sailors, so we can ensure our sailors can remain operational if they have the OJT, which I believe is the most important aspect of learning Canes and any other shipboard networks? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for the question. Yeah, I know that is a huge challenge, and I'm glad that you are finding some relief with this. I want to introduce you to Commander Blythe Blackstone right over there, and she will, and also Jim Blankenship that are up here in the front row. If you know them, those two, then they will be able to give you a much better answer than I will, and they are right here, so they'll be happy to talk to you. But I thank you for your question, and yeah, okay. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.